Hello, friends. Today, I will tell you about the 2021 dramatic thriller based on true events called The Mad Women's Ball. Eugenie, along with thousands of people, bids farewell to the famous writer Hugo. During the ceremony, the girl has a seizure but manages to stop herself in time. Arriving late for dinner, Eugenie lies to her parents, saying she was with a friend. But her brother Théophile quietly smiles, knowing that his sister is not telling the truth. To change the subject, he starts talking about the upcoming debates, and Eugenie asks for permission to attend the event with him. But their father sharply refuses, reminding her that it is not fitting for a lady to participate in such things. Before bed, Eugenie enters the bathroom and has another episode, during which she speaks to someone. However, she regains control of herself after noticing her grandmother in the doorway, waiting for her for their regular evening ritual. The next morning, Théophile prepares to go to the debates and finds his sister in his carriage, despite their father's strict prohibition against her going. But the girl has no intention of attending the meeting. She only asks her brother to give her a ride to the outskirts of the city, where she can quietly read a book and smoke, away from their strict parents. Though not thrilled by the idea or his involvement, Théophile cannot refuse his beloved sister. After buying a fresh bun, Eugenie arrives at a simple cafe where, while smoking a cigarette, she reads poetry and glances at the young man sitting at the next table. Noticing this, the stranger strikes up a conversation and lends Eugenie a book about spirits, leaving a note with his name on the first page and taking her promise to meet again so she can return the book. In the evening, as Eugenie reads the book, she tells her brother about her new acquaintance, and he listens, resting his head on her lap as she reads. The next day, the family visits a nearby estate where Théophile's fiancée lives. This union is very important to their father, and he is deeply displeased when Eugenie once again makes a sarcastic remark, offending the young lady. This causes conflict within the family. It's Christmas Eve. Eugenie and Theo are putting up the Christmas tree, and they climb up to the attic to retrieve the decorations. At that moment, Eugenie has another episode and confesses to Theo that she now sees many different spirits, not just one man as before. Eugenie opens up to her brother and asks him not to be afraid, as the book the young man at the cafe lent her says there are many people like her. Eugenie returns to her grandmother's room to brush her hair and put her to bed. But at some point, she stops what she's doing and begins rummaging through the closet, pulling out a pendant that her relative lost 40 years ago. When her grandmother asks how she knew about it, the girl admits that her late grandfather told her. The next morning, her worried mother wakes her, saying that she and her father are heading to the neighboring estate again, and she asks her daughter to behave and not say anything unnecessary. Noticing the tears in her mother's eyes, Eugenie assumes it's just concern about her behavior. So, without suspecting anything, she hugs her mother and prepares to leave. On the way, Eugenie spots a travel bag at her father's feet and realizes they are not heading to a social visit. Looking out the window, she doesn't recognize the road, but when she sees mentally ill women in the garden, she understands everything. Unfortunately, by then, it's too late. The carriage stops at the gates of a mental asylum where her father has brought Eugenie after Theo shared her secret with him. The medical staff immediately take the girl by the arms, ignoring her screams, while Theo, feeling faint, cannot keep calm and bends over by the carriage. After hesitating for a moment, the head of the family signs the document consenting to his daughter's involuntary treatment. Head nurse Geneviève roughly inspects the new arrival, noting that any disobedience here will result in solitary confinement. Eugenie enters the communal dormitory and is immediately shocked by what she sees. Dozens of women, half of them behaving completely erratically, try to touch the new patient. But Louise, a girl who clearly has mental issues, though it seems they were caused by the treatment here, steps in to help. Louise endlessly chats about her engagement to a young doctor named Jules and the costume ball held at the clinic every year for the wealthy and the officials. At lunch, Louise introduces the newcomer to the others, giving detailed descriptions of each patient. The first night is very difficult for Eugenie, and she barely sleeps. In the morning, she watches as the head nurse takes Louise away, and from their conversation, it's clear this is a regular occurrence. Louise is brought into a large office where dozens of doctors, including Jules, are gathered. He smiles at the patient in such a way that only she notices. The hospital's chief doctor, Dr. Charcot, begins a hypnosis session, and when the girl collapses on the floor, he calmly steps over her and bids everyone farewell until the next session. The patient is taken to the infirmary, where she regains consciousness, and Dr. Jules visits her. After dismissing the medical staff, he takes advantage of her naivety, telling her that at the upcoming costume ball, he plans to propose to her. He then slides one hand under her dress and pleasures himself with the other. Seizing a brief free moment, Genevieve rushes home to visit her elderly father and have lunch with him, sharing the latest clinic news. When she returns to work, Genevieve goes to check on the newcomer, and Eugenie speaks to the nurse in the voice of Blondine, her deceased sister. The woman refuses to listen, ordering the madwoman to be quiet. The doctor examines the patients and prescribes cold water therapy with chunks of ice for Eugenie, which finally breaks her. Theo tracks down Genevieve and begs her to help Eugenie, confessing his deep regret for what he has done. He asks the nurse to give Eugenie a book, and after some thought, she agrees. Genevieve tells Eugenie about Theo's visit and agrees to give her the book on the condition that she connects her with her deceased sister and helps them talk. One night, Genevieve wakes Eugenie and brings her to her office, where she plans to witness the ritual. At first, Eugenie struggles to reach Blondine, but eventually the spirit connects and reveals that Genevieve's father has taken ill in their kitchen at home. Dropping everything, the woman rushes home and indeed finds her father after an attack. When he asks how she knew about the incident, Genevieve decides to confess, but her father only criticizes her, accusing her of madness. After another hypnosis session, Louise loses the use of her legs and one side of her body. Seeing this, Eugenie can no longer stay silent. She tells the doctors exactly what she thinks, not holding back on her words or accusations. Because of this, she is deemed dangerous and transferred to solitary confinement in a dark cell under the supervision of the strict Jean. Her meals are passed through a small slot at the bottom of the door. The shutters are only opened occasionally. It seems the entire therapy is aimed at completely breaking the patient's will. One day, when Jean comes to mock Eugenie once again, the girl tells the warden that she communicates with her late mother and knows all her secrets. In response, the nurse uses force, only releasing Eugenie's throat when she is on the verge of choking. Meanwhile, Genevieve, haunted by the memory of what happened, secretly tells Eugenie that she will help her escape from the clinic. She just needs to hold on a little longer. The nurse convinces Dr. Charcot that the patient has completely lost her will and is no longer dangerous. The doctor agrees to transfer her back to the general ward, where preparations for the upcoming ball are in full swing. Eugenie finds Louise in a wheelchair, but the girl remains cheerful, still believing in her future marriage and happy life. That night, Eugenie manages to read the note Genevieve secretly passed to her during the transfer. Theo also receives a secret letter with an invitation to the ball. The evening of the ball arrives. Wealthy and influential guests flock to the clinic, eager to be entertained by the mentally ill patients. Theo arrives as well and immediately finds his sister, inviting her to dance. Jane keeps a close eye on the pair, suspecting they are conspiring with Genevieve. The festivities begin. Some of the guests openly mock the strange women, while others plan to fulfill their carnal desires by offering the patients strong drinks and whispering sweet words in their ears. Amid the commotion, Genevieve manages to secretly lead Eugenie and Theo into her office. After changing Eugenie into regular clothes, they head toward the exit. Dr. Jules also takes advantage of the chaos. Wheeling Louise into an empty office, he tells her their wedding ceremony is about to take place. Knowing the paralyzed girl cannot resist, he pushes her onto the table, finally fulfilling the fantasy he had dreamed of for so long. However, one of the elderly patients, who had been in the clinic for 25 years after taking revenge on her cheating husband, bursts into the room just as Jules is... Well, you get the idea. This doesn't stop the old woman from beating him in all the important places. Jean notices the disappearance of the patient and her brother and rushes to search for them. Spotting the escapees in the hallway, the nurse raises the alarm, but Genevieve manages to get them outside where a carriage awaits. Genevieve stays behind, refusing to flee with Eugenie. A year later, Eugenie writes a letter to her friend, saying that she is free and happy, living far from everyone and no longer hiding her abilities, helping those who need it. Genevieve smiles as she reads the letter while sitting on a bench in the clinic's park. But now she walks this park not as a nurse, but as a patient. That was the price of Eugenie's freedom.